His whispers echo through the ages of D&D lore, promising forbidden knowledge and untold riches. His thirst for power so great, death could not contain it. Vecna is back. Hey there, adventurers. Welcome back to Short Rest Studios. I'm Judd, and I am eagerly awaiting the release of Vecna, Eve of Ruin. So today, we look back at Vecna's evolution through each edition of D&D and who he is today. Vecna's world-dominating legacy traces all the way back to the original Dungeons & Dragons supplement, Eldritch Wizardry by Gary Gygax and Brian Bloom, published in 1976. We know he's a powerful wizard who got into some very dark magic in his pursuit of eternal life, eventually becoming a lich. Eldritch Wizardry tells us literally nothing else about Vecna's backstory. It just leaves us with two artifacts. The first is the hand of Vecna, a dried, shriveled, and blackened hand such as could have been caused by having been burned. The hand, and it is also rumored in dark passageways, an eye, is the sole remains of an ancient lich who was so powerful that he was able to imbue his hand with wondrous, horrible powers, and to enable it to survive even after his long undead body had ceased to exist. Then there's the Eye of Vecna. It survived along with his hand, but it may or may not have originally belonged to Vecna, as it is said to glitter much in the same manner as the eye of a feline. If you put the eye into your own empty socket, it grafts itself to your head and gives you remarkable powers. I mean, gross. The hand and eye of Vecna show up again in the 1979 Dungeon Master's Guide, but there's really not much added to the Lich Lord story until the second edition DMG in 1989. There are some changes to Vecna's artifacts. For instance, the hand will eventually cause you to believe that you are Vecna, and you can only remove it by cutting your arm off. But my favorite change is the hand knows when its user is going to die, and it just stops working.
See ya, wouldn't want to be.
The eye here is said to be a myth, but it's also whispered in secret that Vecna still roams the world. Under the description of the hand in the DMG, we get one little sentence. Little is known of this being except that he eventually met his doom in some awesome conflagration, or at least that his physical body was destroyed. But Vecna's story moves from myth to reality. That's right, I said it. Reality. With Vecna Lives, a Greyhawk adventure released in 1990 that puts players up against the Whispered One himself. Vecna is now a demigod of unbelievable power. The hand and the eye grant even greater powers now, but they also demonstrate that Vecna is still active. For example, using certain powers of either artifact means you risk being taken over. The hand and eye will follow Vecna's evil agenda. But beyond that, for the first time in Vecna Lives, we get the story of Vecna. He's described as a figure shrouded in myth and legend who comes from a time lost to the annals of history, before the rise of empires and the clash of civilizations. Rumor claims he was the mightiest wizard on Earth, that's Earth with an O, the home of Greyhawk, and he ruled over some forgotten nation from a black tower. He was cruel and ambitious. He used villages to breed subjects for his experiments and destroyed entire cities. It seems Vecna achieved immortality, but it's unclear how. Either he managed to imprison death itself, or because of his hubris, he was cursed to exist somewhere between life and death, or he found the magic of life and became the greatest of liches. His right-hand man, Kas, their right hand, because he lost his left hand. Kas the Bloody-Handed wielded an evil magic sword that Vecna bestowed upon him. The sword spoke to Kas, offering him power, until finally the lieutenant was like, "Lich, please," and betrayed his master.
Who writes this stuff?
Sorry, that was super dumb. So in a final cataclysmic battle, Vecna's tower crumbled to dust, leaving behind only his hand and eye. But Vecna's cult and his power continued to grow. He died, but he's still at work seeking ultimate dominion. He wants to become a god and to reclaim his eye and hand, which were hidden from him by the gods. At the end of Vecna Lives, assuming you're party 1, Vecna was banished to the demiplane of Ravenloft. But that's not the end of Vecna's 2e story. Another module, Die Vecna Die, these titles are great, right? Comes along in 2000. This adventure takes players from Greyhawk to Ravenloft to Planescape. This time, in his bid to become a god, Vecna works such profound change on the multiverse that the module ends with this. The changes do not occur immediately, but instead are revealed during the subsequent months. However, one thing remains clear. Nothing will ever be the same again. Sounds like a cheeky way to transition to a new edition, huh? The 2000 Player's Handbook lists Vecna as a lesser deity, so it looks like he got what he wanted.
I'm a god.
He shows up in other material like the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, but the most complete description we get is in the 2002 publication of Deities and Demigods. Now, one of the core pantheon, the maimed lord is described as having ascended from mortal king to lich, forever shrouded in secrecy and intrigue, and missing his left hand and eye, which serve as reminders of his confrontation with Kas. Vecna embodies the manipulation of secrets and the pursuit of forbidden knowledge. His followers, usually wizards, sorcerers, and conspirators, adhere to his dogma of uncovering the darkness hidden within every heart and exploiting it for power. His clergy operate in isolated cells across the world, engaging in subversion and seduction. But one of their primary activities is gathering of ancient relics, including their relentless quest for the hand and eye of Vecna. And of course, he plots the downfall of the other gods so he can eventually dominate the entire world. He shows up again in the 2003 PHB for the 3.5 edition, the 2004 source books Complete Divine and Libris Mortis, and he and his priesthood get a write-up in Dragon number 384. Vecna returns along with, or more accurately, still separated from, his left hand and eye. He's primarily the god of secrets, and not much else changes until 2008 with the publication of the supplement Open Grave, Secrets of the Undead. Vecna's cultists are hard at work weaving intricate plots and schemes to further his current ambitions, whatever those are. We do know that they still tirelessly seek the hand and eye of Vecna, but what's new is his followers are also looking for the sword of Kas. Kas, you remember, is the lieutenant who betrayed Vecna. Well, we now know that he's a powerful vampire lord, and we know for sure that he didn't just drop a tower on his boss. In a bid to become a god in Vecna's place, Kas used this sword given to him by Vecna to cut off his left hand and gouge out his left eye. Both Kas and Vecna survived, and they each now seek the destruction of the other. According to Open Grave, the sword offers great power to any who grasp it, but wielders end up betraying what they love most. Cool! In the 2014 5th edition Player's Handbook, Vecna shows up in a list of Greyhawk deities. He's not in the monster manual. In the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, he's mentioned as a possible god for the Arcana Cleric domain or a warlock patron of the Undying, but in the Dungeon Master's Guide, he shows up in a list of Dawn War deities on page 10.
That's it?
I'm not finished. His hand and his eye are in a list of artifacts with some new abilities, and we get a glimpse into his story. Then, of course, he was famously introduced to the Exandria setting by Critical Role when Joe Manganiello stole his hand. Eventually, Joe's character Arcan was added to Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus in 2019, and some more details on Vox Machina's fight with Vecna were in the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. In 2022, Wizards of the Coast released the Vecna dossier, which gave us an official 5e stat block, and of course, coming up in just a couple weeks, on May 21st, 2024, we'll get Vecna Eve of Ruin, a massive adventure that goes all the way to level 20. With all of those 5e sources, here's the tale of Vecna as it stands today. Vecna was born in obscurity on the world of Earth. His mother was a hedge witch exiled for necromancy. The wizards who exiled her bound her son to servitude. Unbeknownst to his wizard overlords, he snuck into their library to educate himself in the magical arts. During these clandestine studies, Vecna first heard a seductive voice that promised vengeance and power, setting him on a path of darkness and destruction. Driven by the voice and fueled by his own ambition, Vecna conquered vast lands using dark magic and became one of the most formidable wizards of his time. He ruled a kingdom that stretched across Earth from an obsidian tower, terror and subjugation the instruments of his authority. In his pursuit of eternal life, Vecna, either through a ritual taught him by the god Orcus or through his own forbidden necromantic arts, became a lich. Now one world was not enough. Vecna began to stretch his evil tendrils across the plains, taking up residence in the citadel of Cavicius, somewhere between the plains of earth and fire. At some point, probably before Vecna's ascension to lichdom, he appointed Kas the Bloody-Handed, a fallen paladin who'd climbed through the ranks of Vecna's minions, to be his trusted lieutenant. He rewarded Kas with the magic blade that would be his downfall and become known as the Sword of Kas. Kas served Vecna faithfully for a long time, but whether influenced by his intelligent magical sword or the same voice that led Vecna on his path of evil, Kas eventually betrayed him. He used his sword to sever the Archlich's hand and put out his eye in a battle that is reported to have left Vecna's tower a heap of ash. Vecna's essence endured, his spirit transcending worlds and ages as he sought to reclaim what was lost and ascend to godhood in a bid for ultimate power. Vecna's influence now looms across the multiverse. Vile creatures of his creation lurk in the shadows. The artifacts of his very body enact his ambitions. Vecna's name strikes fear into the hearts of mortals and gods alike, his followers fanatically loyal, his enemies, chief of whom is his former lieutenant, consumed by a hatred that knows no bounds. And he, the Whispered One, returns in Vecna Eve of Ruin. You can check out my preview on that new adventure in this video. In the meantime, I got a new hand to try on.
Groovy.